Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I am the Reverend Dana Edwards, and my pronouns are she and her, and I welcome you to Cedar Lane Unitarian Universalist Congregation. Can you hear me better on here? Does this work better? No? Okay. Can we get me turned up a little louder, please?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to continue to project, and I think we'll get the sound worked out in 10 seconds. I have faith. So welcome. Welcome to the celebration of life of Mike Ford, a beloved friend, brother, compatriot, companion in this journey. Mike, from what I hear, was you want me to use that? Sorry. Oh, better, much better. Maybe too good. Okay, so we are going to start with these words from Mary Oliver, the poem Wild Geese. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about your despair, yours, and I will tell you about mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, and the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese high in the clean blue air are heading home again. Whomever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over, announcing your place in the family of things. And now we will participate in a Unitarian Universalist ritual of opening called the chalice lighting. And in our chalice lighting, I invite you to stand and body your spirit as you're able and to read the words that are written in your program. We gather at this hour as a people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and need. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, and celebration of the life we share together. May it be so. You may be seated while I light the flame. I invite you to rise in body or spirit as we sing Amazing Grace. It's in the gray hymnals. You may be seated. I think they turned one off. I don't think this one's going to work. Oh, it's working on mine. Ah, okay. Okay. Thank you for your patience, and I apologize for the changes here. We now have 2 readings. I would like to invite Chris Jablonski up to read We Remember. Just hold it kind of close to your mouth.
I had a moment of terror earlier today when I wondered if I'd put the right piece of paper in my pocket, and I was afraid I was going to have to read you a shopping list. But
Thank you.
in the rising of the sun, and in it's going down, in the blowing of the wind and the chill of the winter, we remember him. In the openings of buds and in the rebirth of spring, in the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we remember him. In the rustling leaves and in the beauty of autumn, in the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember him. When we are weary and in need of strength, when we are lost and sick at the heart, when we have joys and when we yearn to share, we remember him. So long as we live, he too shall live. And for now, he is a part of us as we remember him.
Okay, there we go. Now I invite Betsy McCormick up to read a poem by Anonymous, When I Die.
Ooh, anonymous. When I die, if you need to weep, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known and loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me by letting hands touch hands, by letting bodies touch bodies, and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away.
Thank you. And now we have 3 reflections, starting with Ellen Siegel.
I was troubled about what I would say when I spoke, and at one point I didn't honestly think I could do it. I had a long talk with Mary one night. I had made a mistake and it hurt me to the core. I doubted you for a quick minute, but inside I knew who you were. I had been a friend with you too long not to know. In a few words, I would say you were one of the most loving, kind, generous, and thoughtful men I've known. You were generous. You gave generously. If it wasn't paying for dinner for everyone at the table, it was a thoughtful gift, many times for no special occasion. You never talked politics at the table when we went out to eat. It was a thoughtfulness I came to appreciate, although it's not so easy for me to do. As weeks went on in this journey of preparing for the memorial service, I saw who you were through other people's words and all the lives you had touched. Chris had put out information on the funeral on Facebook, and I texted folks. There were people I didn't think knew you so well, who kept saying how much you touched their lives and how much you will be missed. Because I only saw you in Montgomery County Down County meetings, I never knew you were everywhere. You must have been for all the people who responded. Thinking on it now, I know how some knew you. Mike was the guy who, when we needed a position filled, whether at a convention, at area service, or at a meeting, he would always chime in, "I'll do that." I saw him doing positions in meetings, at the convention, and at area service. Mike was a fun-loving man. He loved music, fishing, disc golf, baseball games, good food at a local restaurant, game nights, and much more. We attended several baseball games together, as well as tons and tons of restaurants, and even a breakout room. We never did escape, but we enjoyed the adventure. I have to say, what I think Mike loved the most was his family. He would light up when he talked about visiting Mary. He also talked about fishing in Key Largo and the old times with his parents and his dog. Probably his second love was dogs and cats, any of them. But he really loved Betsy's dog Hannah and Gree the cat. He had an infectious smile, big and broad. The joy emanated from him. When I first met Mike, it was hard to get him to talk about much. He was painstakingly quiet. As time went on, he was able to open up. In recovery, I learned to talk with people on a more emotional and open level. Mike did too, and I looked forward to those calls. I'm going to miss the calls, the smiles, the hugs, and all the things that made you Mike. Thank you for letting me be a part of your life.
Now I invite up J.B. Buchanan.
Michael Dolan Ford, or simply Mike, to those who knew him well, was more than just a friend. He was a kindred spirit. His generosity knew no bounds. He treated me like family, like a brother from another mother. And his love came with no expectations of anything in return. I met Mike 20 years ago, right downstairs from here at the older toddlers group. From that very first meeting, I knew he was special. He most recently attended his now virtual home group, the Get Down group, which back in the day was held a half hour later in the same room. His service to his home group and the NA community in general was unwavering, always fixing coffee, organizing, and supporting area committees and regional conventions, ensuring that others had a place to heal, grow, and belong. Mike's passion for music was evident in the way he spoke about it, from the concerts of the United States Air Force Concert Band to the electrifying performances of the U.S. Air Force Airmen of Note Jazz Band, as well as his love for go-go music. But even amidst these vibrant beats, he could find serenity in the classical compositions playing softly on his car radio, always tuned to WETA. He was a devoted sports fan, especially when it came to football and his beloved Washington Redskins, for which he was a season ticket holder. Some of his happiest moments were spent chowing down at Donnie's Tailgater and when posing for pregame pictures with the Redskins cheerleaders. His face lit up with pure joy. A true fisherman at heart, Mike was a lifetime member of Trout Unlimited, as was I. And I cherish the times he spent helping me improving my fly casting technique at Fort Bayard Park. The adventures we took were nothing short of legendary. Fishing on the Spring Creek at the Beartooth Anglers Lodge in Livingston, drifting down the Yellowstone River, or on a peaceful lake, visiting Yellowstone National Park, and crossing the Continental Divide. Whether it was navigating a hailstorm at the Bozeman Airport or savoring the peaceful beauty of Montana, Mike embraced every moment with gratitude and excitement. And of course, we all knew he was a connoisseur of food. From dozens of Recovery Guys Night Out dinners to discovering the Taste of New Orleans po' boy shop, which he liked so much he bought it. Mike found joy in every meal shared with friends. The Fish House in Key Largo, celebration dinners with Ellen, Betsy, and Noel, the jazz brunch at the 38th World Convention of NA. Each gathering was another memory made, another time for connection. Mike's life was a testament to the beauty of friendship, generosity, selfless service, adventure, and love. As he truly believed, one of the greatest gifts in recovery is the ability to embrace ourselves for who we are and open our hearts to those around us. He lived this truth every single day. Rest easy, my friend. I have the distinct privilege of presenting your family with your Infinity Medallion. If I can find it here. Oops. Acknowledging your commitment to the NA program and living clean all the way to the very end. You'll be missed forever, but your spirit will live on in the countless lives you touched. Thanks.
What an honor and a testament to his hard work to receive that medallion. So now I would like to invite up Mike's sister, Mary Ford, for our final reflection.
It's lovely to see you all here. I'm warm seeing you here to celebrate Mike, or Mikey, as he also liked. I've learned so much more about his chosen family and community in the last 2 months. I knew some before, but I know more now. Michael was a miracle for me, someone of my generation and my family that I trusted and whom I felt safe and appreciated by. In the last 20 years, we talked at least weekly, more than 20 years. We talked at least weekly, and even we had visits in Maryland and in California where I live. We went fishing in Florida, even visited cousins together in St. Louis and Nashville a few years back. I agree with what my husband Rob says. Mike was someone who made the most change in his life of anyone he had ever met. Mike chipped away at and often transcended a challenging set of cards that he was dealt. Cognitive, emotional, physical. He was an outlier in the social spectrum in many cases, no question. He was big, he was kind of lumbering, and because of a stroke in his 30s, he had some processing difficulties that made his communication slow when he felt pressed or stressed, which put some people off. He wrestled with self-doubt and criticism, and he could be cranky, but God knows, he wouldn't have been a Ford without some of that. And let's just say he took the art of messy bachelor pad to new heights. But man, he was smart and funny and deeply kind and generous once you got through what sometimes looked like a baleful stare on his face, which was probably more like him just chewing on his feelings and biding his time. Mike's friend and recovery community knew him for his big smile, wry humor, his dogged service, and his quiet generosity. He gave back. He was the barista at many a meeting. He helped plan regional and national events. He chipped in. He went to the Red Cross every month to give his universal donor O blood. He welcomed newbies to recovery with a sunny smile and a hug. He slipped financial support quietly to people when the need arose. I'm pretty sure there are other generous things he did that we never knew about and will never know about. He was more than you thought he was. He was a seeker. He was alive inside. I feel so lucky to be one of the people who got to know him and love him. In the latter part of his life, Mike decided to reach for the brass ring of living sober and alive and feeling in the world. And he kept reaching for more of those rings over the years. He didn't always make it, but he kept at it, and he decided every day that he was willing to try again. He was striving to take the risk to be real with me and with others, to connect from a sober, grounded place where authenticity counted. We grappled with getting closer to the truth with one another and earned more and more trust through some scrappy fights and misunderstandings. But we both persisted and kept deciding it was worth the fight. Mike had so much going on in that big old huge head of his. Thoughts and feelings that added up to so much more than most people knew about. He was pretty selective about who he shared himself with. It was easy to underestimate him because he was slow to talk and respond. When he was comfortable with you, he was dry, funny, kind, and animated. And out of nowhere, he'd make a comment that let you know that he got far more out of what was going on than you thought. He would flash his fund of knowledge about politics, history, music, metaphysics, fish, hardware, plumbing, even real estate. If you paid attention, you could see the keen eye he could bring to things. He paid attention. You'd feel it in that special gift that he'd find for you that you didn't even know you wanted. It was the perfect thing. He'd thought it through and found it for you. When I was sorting through his house in February, I came across a sheaf of papers that turned out to be a journal. I tucked them away and I debated for close to a week about whether to read them. Well, would he want me to read them? If so, was I reading them for the right reasons? Would I give it the dignity it deserved? I decided ultimately that he would have wanted me to read it, and I'm so glad that I did. There was his internal dialogue about life, his demons, his triumphs, regrets, and his relationship with a higher power. There were his resolutions. He had a strong inner life. I'm not revealing content here, but I bring this up because there was something there that might surprise you. He referred to God as she throughout the journal. I find that very moving, especially for an old white guy in suburban Maryland, born in the 50s. He was a bigger and a different thinker than many knew. He was a seeker. He made friends of fellow travelers in recovery. As his community grew in his first decade of recovery, as he felt more and more a part of the world, he allowed me into his life in a way that we'd never experienced before. In his second decade of recovery, he slowly, shyly, and sometimes clumsily began reaching out to his nieces, nephews, and grands in his own way to show them that he cared. I count myself fortunate that when he reached for the brass ring of recovery 20 years ago, I received the gift of him back in my life. We worked at it and we found a bond, a growing bond of trust and a fierce loyalty that helped keep us both afloat in some rough waters over the past 5 years in particular. The grief that I feel about Mike being gone is hard, but it does feel like a gift. Unlike any other loss of a person in my family, inside or outside my family, my grief is simple and profound. I'm not distracted by mixed feelings, so it actually hurts more, but it's clean. So here I am marinating in the broth of it, the loss, the mortality, and the lesson to not wait too long for the things you dream about. This grief is like a knife, but more like a warm butter knife that cuts through my usual detachment. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Mikey. I'm so grateful that he decided to risk coming forward into the world. It means the world to me that I had him for this time as a loving, trusting, and trustworthy brother. I will miss him a lot, and I'll always hold him fiercely, fiercely in my heart.
Please rise and body or spirit to sing hymn number 16, "'Tis a Gift to Be Simple," in our gray hymnal. may be seated. Tis a gift to be simple. Tis a gift to love simply in an uncomplicated and wholehearted way. And while I didn't know Mike, it sounds like in the last 20 years, that is the way that he loved, simply and wholehearted. None of us are all good or all bad, luckily, thankfully. There's good and there's complicated in each of us. And we embody, most of us, that old improv exercise of yes and, right? So the improv exercise is if there's two people talking to each other, you can never say no or like, what? Because that would be terrible in improv. So you have to say yes and. And so from what I've heard today, what I've heard from Mary, it sounds like Mike was a yes and type of person. And I have thoroughly enjoyed getting to know him through his loved ones, through his family of origin, and through his chosen family today. And especially in this last week or so through his sister Mary, who very clearly loved him unconditionally and simply and completely. And I wish for each of us that type of love, whether it's from someone in your family or someone that you know in your life. And Mike's generosity of heart will live on for years to come. I can't tell you anything that you don't already know or haven't already experienced, but that's what's come through his time here at Cedar Lane and through everything that I've heard today. As has been mentioned, Mike grew up in Bethesda with 3 siblings, and his parents, Alice, Kathryn, Donohoe Ford, and Eugene Francis Ford. And Mike, as we mentioned, has had a collection of loving people around him, both those who he's related to and those that he's chosen to connect with over the last 20 years. And those who knew him have mentioned his sunny smile, his beautiful eyes, his crusty, dry, off-the-grid wit, his kindness, his generosity. Those are the words that keep coming up over and over and over again. And recovery for Mike, like for many of us, is and was a long and daily journey towards healing. And that's why receiving that infinity medallion was so important. His recovery community was deeply important to him, as was Cedar Lane. Both Cedar Lane and his recovery community provided the container for his growth, his healing, and a reconnection with his gentle spirit and nature. And as many of you know, recovery for him was a daily act of perseverance and humility. And Mike, as we have heard, volunteered extensively in his regional, national, and international branches of his recovery organization. He gave blood monthly for 20 years. That is such a commitment. For someone with a fear of needles, I am in awe that he did that monthly, so that is amazing. And just the self-awareness of knowing, like, oh, I was gifted with this special type of blood. and I want to share this gift with others. He also had a great love of animals, cats and dogs, especially as we've heard, and he was an aficionado of good and plentiful food and cooking and going out to eat, and an avid disc golf player. And I am told he had over 1,000 LPs in his music collection. So music was also clearly a deep passion for him. And I'm happy to hear that he and I have something in common with WETA being on our radios all the time. And we know that he was a devoted fisherman. And he was always seeking out places to throw his line, either from boats or single floating blowups, or standing beside ponds and rivers, particularly in Montana, and at his beloved family's home, the Beartooth Anglers Club Lodge. So as we remember Mike, may we share with each other the stories of his generosity, stories of his hope and healing, stories of his love and his passion for life. May we remember him in words and in the ways that we live our daily lives. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be. And now I invite you into a moment of quiet reflection, a moment of silence in remembrance of Mike. Holding the silence with honor and respect to all that Mike had to offer, feeling the love surrounding us through the love of our connection to Mike. As we go forth, we will go forth into our fellowship hall in a moment to share more about who Mike was to you and to listen to who Mike was to other people. And in doing so, we'll understand him more deeply, understand all the facets of who he was and who he still is in our hearts. And we'll understand maybe a little bit more about who we are in relation to each other and in relation to this person who we all care deeply about. And we'll understand a little bit more about all the identities that Mike had and maybe some of the things that he couldn't say out loud, but that were in his heart that we can share with each other. And even as we leave this space and go beyond the fellowship hall, we know that our memories are the way a person lives on. And so share what you loved about Mike with whoever will listen in your life. And if you go fishing, or if you eat a good meal, or if you come back to Cedar Lane, say a little prayer in remembrance of Mike and keep his memory alive. And so we'd like to close with a ritual from meetings in his recovery community. And this is a ritual that may be very familiar to some of you and is not as familiar to me. So we'd like to say the Serenity Prayer. And so do you usually all stand when you say the Serenity Prayer? Okay, please stand as you're willing and able. and join hands together. As we say these words in memory and in honor of Mike and his journey through recovery into infinity. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, and the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. May it be so. Amen.